Minglaba and welcome to My Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Michelle with the recent news and reports from around Myanmar. Soyna got the latest reports on Myanmar still better than neighbours and low risk of COVID-19. Thora Sizin will give us all the details on film industry of China becomes alive again. Pyodridu and Almu also have the story on precautionary measures restricted again in Mandalay. Shenai, Minto, and Somian have the full story on continuous flow of commodities to be implemented in Rakhine State. All of these reports will be coming up on Myanmar Today. But for now, let's take a look at what's happening in local news. President Wu Win-myint received a courtesy call from Mr. Yang Jiechi, member of the Political Bureau of Chinese Communist Party's Central Committee, at the Credential Hall of the Presidential Palace in Neighbours on Tuesday afternoon. At the call, they discussed fostering bilateral relations, expanding cooperation in agriculture, health, education, and trade between the two countries, continuing joint projects of the two countries during the post-COVID-19 period, supply of COVID-19 vaccines to Myanmar, assistance of China in the peacemaking processes of Myanmar, for the stability of border areas, maintaining consistent implementation of agreements reached during the visit to Myanmar of Chinese President Mr. Xi Jinping in January 2020, systematic organization of the Myanmar-China Year of Culture and Tourism 2020 to strengthen social and people-to-people exchanges and cooperation between the two countries, joint celebrations for 70th anniversary celebrations of establishment of Myanmar-China diplomatic relations and successful holding of Myanmar's elections in November. They also exchanged views on close cooperation between the two countries in regional and international arenas. Vice President U Henry Van Thieu presided over the second coordination meeting of Steering Committee on Handawari International Airport Construction Project on Tuesday, to discuss the infrastructural works for the project. U Henry Van Thieu, in his capacity as the chairman of the steering committee, explained the work of his committee, which was reformed by the President's Order 31st, 2020 on 11 February 2020. The previous committee held a coordination meeting in December 2016 and decided to set up the Handawari International Airport as the national project, to sign contract with HIA Myanmar Committee Limited to do collaboration among relevant ministries in applying for official development assistance loan and to provide assistance for infrastructure and utilities. Discussions were made with JICA and MLIT to implement the airport project with 100% ODA loan. The preparatory committee on implementation of project was formed with the representative of Myanmar and Japan, and the committee held 11 meetings from February 2018 to July this year. Officials from the Social Security Board under the Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population on Tuesday held a meeting on relief measures and further processes during the COVID-19 pandemic. During the meeting, Union Minister Wu Deng-sui said that the COVID-19 is spreading throughout the world so far and causes burden for people regarding health issues and economic sectors, and so the ministry has set strategic plan to respond to these negative impacts. The government provided social security benefits, including 40% of social security fees, to insured workers from the factories and workshops, which are temporarily suspended for the inspections whether they are in line with the rules released by the Ministry of Health and Sports. He also met with the new 18 assistant doctors and instructed to carry out the duties in line with the missions and visions of the ministry and civil servant regulations. He said that the health workers of SSB play a key role and they need to serve the patients with proper treatments to raise trust in public hospitals and clinics. A charter flight by Myanmar National Airlines from Singapore landed at the Yangon International Airport on Wednesday evening, with 28 Myanmar seamen who needed crew change after their contracts had expired. Similarly, after cooperation between authorities and the Myanmar embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, a relief flight carrying 164 Myanmar nationals landed at the Yangon International Airport yesterday evening. As they arrived in the Yangon International Airport, the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population, the Ministry of Health and Sport, and the Yangon region government held the returnees for health inspections and arranged for a 21-day quarantine. To bring back Myanmar nationals stranded in foreign nations by relief flights and charter flights, in accordance with the instruction from National Level-Centric Committee for Prevention and Treatment of COVID-19. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs cooperated with the relevant ministries and Myanmar embassies from respective nations and brought back a total of 13,364 Myanmar nationals to date. That's all with the local news. Now we'll move on to our first report. Myanmar seems to be in largely control in preventing a spread of the disease, comparing to the neighboring countries. According to the data released by the Ministry of Health and Sports, there are more than 900 of COVID-19 reported cases. The virus infection has spread all around the country. The reported cases after 16th August were mostly from Rakhine and Yangon.
COVID-19 reported cases in Myanmar have reached more than 900, according to the data released by the Ministry of Health and Sports. Comparing to the neighboring countries, Myanmar seems to be in largely control in preventing the spread of the disease. Neighboring countries of Myanmar, such as India, is in the third place for COVID-19 reported cases worldwide, and China with more than 85,000 cases, Thailand with more than 3,000 cases, and Laos with only more than 20 cases, according to the Worldometer Coronavirus Resource Center. Coronavirus disease has spread in Myanmar since 23rd of March, with very first 2 positive patients. Along with the restrictions and health preventive measures, COVID-19 situation in Myanmar was cold starting from May, with only reported cases from foreign returnees. And from 16th August, the local transmission has started back again with the infection of the bank staff in Sidwe, Rakhine State. The positive patients in the country are becoming higher with at least more than 10 reported cases each day. On some days, the reported cases even reached to nearly 100. The virus infection has spread all around the country, including Yangon. The reported cases after 16th August were mostly from Rakhine and Yangon. Dr. Tanaiso, Director of Health Knowledge Promotion Division from the Ministry of Health and Sport said,
Data ရင်းကူးစက်မှုတွေကအများကြီးတွေ့နေရတယ်ပေါ့နော်။အဲ့ဒီအတွက်ကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့အများဆုံးထိန်းချုပ်ဖို့ကြိုးစားရပေါ့နော်။အဲ့တော့
After the case 375, we are struggling in combating the disease. At the beginning periods of COVID-19, as we all know, there were no locally transmitted cases. We are controlling it by putting much effort to prevent the spread to other regions and states. The recent testing of the virus shows that there is a mutation of the coronavirus which has 10 times faster than the previous infection. The exact information of this infection was already announced by the Ministry of Health and Sports through websites and Facebook pages.
The government imposed stay-at-home order to 7 townships in Yangon region on 1st September, which will be effective on 8 a.m. of 2nd September. Uwe Pyohan, Region Lhotor representative from Insane Township said,
အခုဒီကြောကြောပြန်လည်းဆိုကြပါစို့နော်ဒီပြန်ပြီးတော့အစာပြိုးလာတဲ့အနေအထားတစ်ခုမှာပြန်ရင်းနှီးနှီးဆိုတာကိုအားလုံး
People get used to their preventive health guidelines since the first COVID-19 outbreak. As this disease is not completely free, people should also follow social distancing rules. And we can say now is the resurgence of the virus. Imposing of stay-at-home order is not new. Everyone has experience with it too. There are also economic matters of grassroots of the people, so it's still hard to make them follow the rules, and we can't force them to. People should stay aware of the virus rather than being afraid too much. We have to practice the new normal lifestyle. We have to notice symptoms in our bodies. We have to follow the rules and restrictions issued by the government.
Crowds can still be seen on the streets due to their social and economic measures. Some follow the health measures and some still don't. Public transportations and markets are still filled with people. Dr. Nau, a teacher from Babadan Township, Yangon region, said.
ပြည်သူတွေစည်းကမ်းတကျလိုက်နာခဲ့ကြလို့ဒီနိုင်ငံတော်ကနေပြီးတော့နိုင်ငံတော်ကြီးကဲတွေနဲ့သက်ဆိုင်ရာဝန်ကြီးဌာနတွေရဲ့
During the previous period of COVID-19, the operation of the public and the authorities and the government bring our country to a good condition. The Ministry of Health and Sports has also announced that the infection rate is faster in second wave. People should go out only when necessary and to wash hands and to wear masks whenever they go out for any reasons. I would like to suggest keeping updated with the information. In Myanmar, COVID-19 cases are nearly 1,000. The Ministry of Health and Sports are issuing guidelines to prevent the spread of the disease.
That's the report on Myanmar is still better than neighbors in low risk of COVID-19. Along with the reorganizing of film festival, the film industry of China thrives again after the closure of cinemas and production sites for months. The cinemas are now receiving the moviegoers back with safety measures, and companies are also shifting to online debut system. And as of the data of August, about 85% of cinema in the whole country has already been reopened.
The outbreak of COVID-19 brought changes in global film industry. The cinemas have to be shut down and most of the productions have been suspended. The international community is dealing with the cinemas and film industry in their own way to reduce the impact as much as possible. This includes online distribution or reopening of the cinemas with safety measures. Also, in China, 70,000 screens in around 10,000 cinemas across the country were ordered to shut during the epidemic. Although China was the former epicenter of COVID-19, as the situation is getting stable now, cinemas are gradually being reopened and the production have resumed work. Masood Damu from CRI Myanmar Department of China Media Group said.
ကိုဗစ်ကာလမှာတော့ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံရဲ့ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေလည်းရနာရတဲ့အထင်မှာပါခဲ့တယ်။အထူးသဖြင့်ဒီကိုဗစ်ကူးစက်မှုတွေမဖြစ်ပေါ်အောင်ပေါ့နော်။အစိုးရအနေနဲ့ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေကိုပိတ်ခိုင်းခဲ့တာတွေ့ရတယ်။ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံမှာကိုဗစ်စဖြစ်ကြတဲ့ကရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေပိတ်ရတယ်လို့ရုပ်ရှင်ရိုက်ကူးရေးလုပ်ငန်းတွေလည်းတပြိုင်တည်းဆိုသလိုပေါ့နော်။ရနာခဲ့ရတော့ရုပ်ရှင်လုပ်ငန်းတွေလည်းကိုဗစ်ကာလမှာအနည်းနဲ့အများတော့ထိခိုက်မှုရှိခဲ့တာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံမှာဘယ်အချိန်မှပေါ့နော်ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေပြန်ဖွင့်ခဲ့တယ်လဲဆိုတော့ကိုဗစ်ဖြစ်ပွားပြီး6လအကြာဒီကိုဗစ်ကူးစက်မှုတွေလျှော့သွားတော့မှရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေပြန်ဖွင့်ပေးတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။ဒါကတော့ဒီကိုဗစ်ကာလအတွင်းတရုတ်နိုင်ငံရုပ်ရှင်လောကရဲ့ဖြစ်တန်းကြရမှုအနေအထားကိုပြောပြလာပါရှင်။
Most of the companies have shifted the film distribution online. Many movies are decided to cancel theater screening and debut online instead. Because of the minimal capacity of the cinemas, the films are getting into online streaming platform, which brought the competition to traditional cinemas. However, the cinemas are also gradually receiving moviegoers by providing safety measures and adapting shorter screening window periods. As of August 22nd, the country's single-day box office exceeded 200 million yuan, and 85% of the cinemas across the country have already reopened.
ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေပြန်ဖွင့်တော့လာကြည့်တဲ့သူတွေကိုအရင်လိုရုံပြည့်လူဝင်ခွင့်မပေးတော့ပါဘူးဒီလူအရေးအတွက်ကန့်သက်ထားတယ်လာကြည့်တဲ့သူတွေကလည်းဒီတခုံကြားစီထိုင်ရတယ်လက်ဖက်တွေကိုလည်း online ကနေပဲဒီဝယ်ယူခွင့်ပြုတာတွေနောက်ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေအစားအစာတွေယူခွင့်မပြုတာတွေနောက်ရုပ်ရှင်ရုံတွေဝင်မယ်ဆိုရင်နှာခေါင်းစီတက်ဖို့တို့အပူချိန်တိုင်းဖို့စတာတွေကိုပေါ့နော်မဖြစ်မနေလုပ်ဖို့သတ်မှတ်ထားတာတွေလည်းရှိပါတယ်အခုလက်ရှိဒီရုပ်ရှင်လောကရဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဈေးကွက်အခြေအနေကတော့ဒါတဖြည်းဖြည်းပြန်ကောင်းလာပြီလို့ဆိုရပါမယ်အခုဆိုရင်လည်းဒီပီကင်းမှာဆိုရင်ပေါ့နော်ဒီပီကင်းနိုင်ငံတကာရုပ်ရှင်ပွဲတော်တွေကျင်းပပြီးတော့ရုပ်ရှင်လုပ်ငန်းဖွံ့ဖြိုးတိုးတက်ရေးအတွက်ပေါ့နော်ဆွေးနွေးပွဲတွေကျင်းပနေတာတွေ့ရတယ်နောက်ဒီ10ကြိမ်မြောက်ပီကင်းနိုင်ငံတကာရုပ်ရှင်ပွဲတော်မှာဆိုရင်လေကုမ္ပဏီတွေနဲ့ဒီစာချုပ်ပေါင်းများစွာချုပ်ဆိုနိုင်ခဲ့တာကိုလည်းတွေ့ရတယ်တရုတ်ရုပ်ရှင်တွေကဒီရိုက်ကူးမှု တွေးခေါ်ယူဆမှုနောက်ဖန်တီးထုတ်လုပ်နိုင်မှုခင်မရတွေးခေါ်ယဉ်ကျေးမှုပေါ့နော်နောက်ဒီနည်းပညာဖွံ့ဖြိုးတိုးတက်မှုတွေပါတဲ့အတွက်အခုလက်ရှိရုပ်ရှင်လောကရဲ့ဈေးကွက်အခြေအနေမှာတော့သူကအထူးစိုးရိမ်စရာမရှိဘူးရှင်ဒီကျမကိုယ်တိုင်လေးဒါတရုတ်ရုပ်ရှင်ဇာတ်ကားတွေကိုအထူးကြိုက်နှစ်သက်တဲ့သူတယောက်ပေါ့နော်တရုတ်ရုပ်ရှင်ဇာတ်ကားတွေကတော့တရုတ်နိုင်ငံအတွင်းမှာသာမကကမ္ဘာမှာလည်းကြည့်ရှုအားပေးသူအထူးများပြားတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်ရှင်
The festival, bringing more than 300 domestic and overseas films to be screened, is holding both online and offline activities. In Myanmar, the film production are allowed with the necessary health guidelines, but the cinemas are not reopened yet, even it has been about 6 months of closures.
That's the report on the film industry of China becomes alive again. Stay with us as we bring you more reports on Myanmar Today. The impact of COVID-19 resurgence in Sittwe could lead some local transmissions in Mandalay region, Precautionary region, the Nindari region, Myanmar State, the southern part of Htin State, and Yangon region. So the respective officials from all the regions and states are restricting the preventive measures as much as they can.
The government has imposed a stay-home measure in Sittwe, the capital city of Rakhine State, following a spike of local transmission of COVID-19. The impact of resurgence in Sittwe could lead some local transmissions in Mandalay region, Precautionary region, the Nindari region, Myanmar State, the southern part of Htin State, and Yangon region. Still, the respective officials from all the regions and states are restricting the preventive measures as much as they can. Speaking to Myanmar Radio about their processes of preventive measures in Mandalay region government's Chan Ethnic Affairs Minister U Simon Sai said.
Mandalay ကတော့ဟိုပါ20ရက်နဲ့စပြီးကျွန်တော်တို့ကတော့နည်းနည်းပိုတင်ကျက်ထားတယ်
Starting from the 21st of August, we have checked highway buses coming from Rakhine State. Before that, we have met with the officials from Mandalay Region Bus Line Supervisory Committee Highway, and some of the bus lines have stopped operation routes since then. We have kept checking the buses and passengers from Rakhine State. We let them stay quarantine centers. Currently, more people in Mandalay become careless and we can see that some are not wearing the face masks. I think there are only 10% of the public is wearing the masks properly. So we have restricted all the activities at the public area around Mandalay Royal Compound. As the infectious rates in Rakhine State are increasing, everyone who has returned from there is taken for the swab test with the cooperation of the Ministry of Health and Sports. We have traced and contained all the people who have exposed with the positive patients.
Simon Sai also mentioned that they are arranging to reopen the 6 immigration gates to Mandalay region, but the people who have returned from Rakhine State have to be taken the swab test and contained at the quarantine center. The preventive measures are being performed systematically at the township level, and some campaigns to raise the public awareness are being carried out by the administrator. According to Uni Linton, the administrator from Amara Thani Western Ward, Almitasan Township.
Even though the occurrence of COVID-19 resurgence is not still intense or not in the condition of outbreak in Mandalay, we had found some positive cases again right now. So, the administrators are checking the returnees from Rakhine State, where the infections are spreading right now. We are still performing the campaigns to wear face masks, and more than 200 people got fined for not wearing masks during the campaigns. We sell a box of face masks with 2,500 checks for fine. After 28th August, the more public is wearing the masks, the more people we can educate to follow the precautionary measures, the less the rate of the infection will be. So, we will carry out these campaigns.
The residents who have suffered the impact of COVID-19 and they are frightening to have more transmission. Masopi Winshui is a shopkeeper from Winterapu Electronics. She said how she suffered from the impact of COVID-19.
The sales are dropping again and our earning is also decreasing. I started some business at the time of the first wave and I just reopened my shops for nearly 2 months ago. The COVID-19 affects us not only economically but also socially. I'm worried how long this will last and I'm afraid to stop the business this time too. For the residents, all we can do is to follow the preventive measures like wearing the face mask, washing the hands, and avoiding the crowded places.
The MOHs also want that the people in Myanmar should remain vigilant regarding health guidelines, as the public participation is still the most important factor in containing the COVID-19.
That's a report on precautionary measures restricted again in Mandalay. The government is handling to fight the coronavirus outbreak in Rakhine State, while the resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic is occurring within Rakhine State. During the outbreak of COVID-19 in this state, some changes occurred in transportation and flows of commodity, such as changing drivers at the designated places, shifting goods according to the directives of government, quoted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association. According to the directives or restrictions imposed for health reasons in the trade sector of Rakhine State, we are trying to encourage smooth and secure flow of commodities, although a decrease has been seen in the number of cargo trucks in the transportation, said by Chairman Htin of MHF TXA. It was reported by Ye Nai, Minton, and Somin Ah.
The government is handling to fight the coronavirus outbreak in Rakhine State, while the resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic is occurring within Rakhine State. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19 in this state, some changes occurred in transportations and flows of commodities, such as changing drivers at the designated places, shifting goods according to the directives of government, quoted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association. According to the directives and restrictions imposed for health reasons in the trade sector of Rakhine State, we are trying to encourage smooth and secure flow of commodities, although a decrease has been seen in the number of cargo trucks in the transportation, said by Chairman Htin, Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association.
The government noticed that there was a need to change drivers in Kyaw region, Precautionary region, and Magwe region, which are the adjacent areas of Rakhine State. These designated areas are a little bit far away for us, therefore we faced difficulties for changing drivers. Actually, these difficulties are not impractical and these are not convenient for all drivers and owners. So the government needs to consider about this case because of the too long distance. Anyhow, we are trying to implement smooth flow of commodities in Rakhine State. During the rainy season, the government does not allow entering 12-wheeled trucks, but only 6-wheeled trucks for transportation due to the conditions of road and bridges. Right now, we use 6-wheeled trucks for food transportation. We also transported relief supplies to Rakhine State 2 days ago.
As local trading process, goods from 14 regions and states are being transported from one place to another throughout the country. Marine products produced from Rakhine State were sent to the central regions and culinary crops, rice, oil and salt produced from the central region to Rakhine State. Now we are facing a shortage of drivers, said by Mao Che, in charge of our Rakhine State Freight Transport Service.
The government announced a notification that can allow changing the ghost and also drivers at Tendoi and Chaopyu townships. According to this way, owners need to hire 2 drivers for 1 girl. That is the main problem for us. At present time, we are facing drivers shortage because of the COVID-19 outbreak. But we are trying to ensure that the flow of commodities will continuously run in the state.
Started from 16 August, we have difficulties in trading to Rakhine State, and after 28 August, the problems became more complicated. Go Nai Linton, Yangon Chaopyu truck driver said.
Some difficulties are facing in this situation, but we can still walk. On the way, there are some health-related threats, so it made me some inconveniences, but I had to adapt the situation to meet conveniences.
In Rakhine State, there were 30 highway terminals and over 100 trucks ran per day before COVID-19 pandemic. At present, nearly 60 trucks are running a day due to the health restrictions, noted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association.
That's a report on continuous flow of commodities to be implemented in Rakhine State. And that's all we have for today's report. And it's time to check on some international news here on Myanmar Today. China and Germany agreed to jointly uphold multilateralism while reiterating their opposition to so-called decoupling, which would lead the world to separation and confrontation. The remarks were made during a meeting between Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the German President on Tuesday. In the meeting, the German President stressed that Germany always attached great importance to its relations with China, acknowledging that it is especially necessary to maintain closer and lasting ties with China under the current tense international situation. Germany reaffirms its One China principle and its position of multilateralism in international affairs, said the president, adding that Germany disagrees with the so-called decoupling and doesn't want the world to be divided against each other.
The Chinese foreign minister arrived for talks on the last leg of his 5-nation European visit to show how much Beijing valued its relationship with the EU, and that even if there were difference of opinion on issues, that should not stand in the way of even closer economic ties. Certainly both men seemed broadly in step as they arrived for their press conference, though there was a small diplomatic hiccup as to which podium was their own. Once that slip was sorted, Heiko Maas suggested there was still far more uniting the two countries than dividing them.
A decoupling of the relationship between the European Union and China is not in our interest. It is in nobody's interest, both politically and economically. There are many reasons for better cooperation, which is one of the motives for continuing to work towards a comprehensive EU-China agreement during our Council presidency.
For his part, Foreign Minister Wang Yi suggested a far-reaching agreement between the EU and China on investment could be completed on schedule by the end of this year.
We must maintain the overall situation of China-EU relations and properly manage any differences. We will agree to the positioning of a China-EU strategic partnership and must grasp the most important aspects of China-EU development.
While the United States was never actually mentioned by name, both sides have made it clear they want to forge a relationship based on their own priorities, irrespective of what hostile commentary is coming from Washington. What's more, European countries have indicated they won't take sides in what some have suggested could become a new Cold War. At the same time, neither will be thrown off course when it comes to negotiating a comprehensive investment agreement, ideally by the end of this year. Before the pandemic, trade between the EU and China was growing steadily. Germany and China alone traded more than $250 billion a year in goods and services. A new framework could enhance that considerably. The Chinese foreign ministers' week of meetings in Europe, from Italy to Norway, the Netherlands and France, were all designed to shore up the relationship at a challenging time globally. It seems from the cautious but friendly reception he has received at each stop that he has broadly succeeded in that objective. Now, as he leaves to return to Beijing, the German Foreign Ministry believes it will be important for all sides to continue that détente and prove that the close collaboration seen during the response to COVID-19 can be matched in other areas. Mark Webster, CGTN, Berlin.
India on Wednesday banned over 100 Chinese mobile apps, including widely popular mobile game PUBG, amid fresh border tension between the two countries. The country's Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology alleged that 118 banned mobile applications are prejudicial to the sovereignty, integrity, defense of India and public order. Chinese search engine giant Baidu, the world's leading payment platform Alipay, and news outlets Sina and the NetEast are also among the list. On June 30, China voiced strong concern over India's move and said New Delhi has the responsibility to uphold the legitimate and legal rights of international investors. Zhao Liqian, spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, said, quote, "I want to stress that the Chinese government always asks the Chinese businesses to abide by international rules, local laws, and regulations in their business cooperation with foreign countries." End quote. The Chinese embassy in India in July also urged the Indian government to correct the wrongdoing of banning apps with Chinese background. Australian economy contracted 7% in the April to June period as it suffered from the COVID-19 crisis, dragging the country into recession for the first time in nearly 30 years. Data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics showed on Wednesday. This is by a wide margin, the largest fall in quarterly GDP since record began in 1959, said the head of the national accounts at the ABS after the figures were released. The ABS report also showed that, due to an increased number of recipients and additional support payments, social assistance benefit in cash rose to a record 41.6%. In March, the Reserve Bank of Australia lowered interest rates to a record 0.25% together with an unprecedented stimulus package, which included an unlimited quantitative easing program. On Tuesday, the bank also expanded its cheap funding facility program to keep low-cost credit flowing in the economy. And that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Michelle. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.